Hi, so what I have for you today is Robert E. Howard's wallet. It's my newest junk journal. I always do themed journals. It's been a while since I put a video up, but we're going to flip through this and see what Robert E. Howard has. Robert E. Howard he's called the father of sword and sorcery fiction. He was a pulp writer in the 20s and 30s out of Cross Plains, Texas. So he's most noted, I guess most people would know him for the creator of Conan the Barbarian. But he wrote everything. And the first part of this wallet, I have it fixed like a little file. And I have some of his like research, I guess. He was really into physical fitness and boxing. He had one of his Pulps was fight stories. And it was a series, and he wrote for Street and Smith. He wrote for Fiction House. This is like a 1920 Sarah card. This is some like research for boxing. This is a business card of his agent. I have some tickets, Cross Plains Golden Gloves. These are some photographs. This is actually Robert Howard. He was an amateur boxer. He was really into it. And he wrote from knowledge, actually. This is a Primo Canera, the prize fighter, which had an appearance in San Antonio, Texas in the 30s, and I'm sure that Robert Howard would have paid attention to that visit. This is a short bio about Robert E. Howard that actually Howard wrote about himself in 1921. It's kind of humorous little story. Then he also was famous for his Solomon Kane stories, and I have some research. Solomon Kane is a Puritan, and here's some information on Puritans. I have this little flip out here with some information on genealogy. Robert E. Howard also studied genealogy in the 20s and 30s. He's like ahead of the curve. And then I have, this is his Conan the Barbarian. This is his Weird Tales, the pulp that it appeared in, the first one. And I have throughout some notes and quotes of Robert Howard. This is a business card for Farnsworth Wright, who was the editor of Weird Tales that Howard dealt with. And I have this is a picture, very handsome Robert E. Howard. And this is a sort of a resume to give you, the reader, an outline of exactly who Howard was, his most famous characters, and some other Weird Tales. Weird Tales pretty much throughout his young life. Once he got accepted into Weird Tales, he was in almost every issue. A lot of them. Okay, and here was another character of his. This guy was in the Western action stories. And I have pictures here. This is Robert E. Howard with his mother, Hester, and his father, Isaac. Isaac was a doctor. And this is a little cabinet card of young Robert E. Howard as a child. I have an address book here, fake address book, and it has some numbers for some of the publishing houses that he appeared in, and then some of his friends, Robert E. Howard, Clark Ashton Smith, among the most important. And we keep flipping here. And I have, this is like a pocket watch. most men in those days, in the 20s and 30s, they carry a pocketbook. It's hard to find actual stuff on Robert E. Howard, because he died young, and his mother died, and his father got rid of all of his possessions and closed the house and moved away. And so the few things that I do have, I try to reproduce. This is his driver's license. Here's another. So I say he was in Cross Plains, but he did go to San Antonio. He traveled to Mexico, San Antonio, different parts of Texas. And this was a very famous serial killer in the Texas area. And he was an axe murderer, but he loved jazz music. And he wrote a letter to the police, and he told them that if he came to a house and jazz music was playing, that he would leave. He wouldn't harm anyone who was a fan of jazz. It's quite bizarre. This is another actual illustration by Robert E. Howard. So I have that in there. Like I said, it's hard to find actual stuff of his. This is a picture of Mexico, and he loved Mexican food. So I have a menu here of from the 20s of Mexican food. And this is a little flip out of William Shakespeare, little booklet, and it's a famous quote that Howard is known to recite from Shakespeare, Hamlet particularly. Again, I have more notes. I have a very gory poem and a postcard here. This is a reproduction of an actual postcard from American Fiction Guild, explaining the kind of stories that they were looking for. This is a Cross Plains newspaper article. Howard was a fan of Jack London. And then I have some of these. These are like trivial cards, but they're geographical, and that might be a game that Howard played. He studied language, he studied geography, he studied poetry, he wrote poetry. He's a very well-rounded guy. This is a letter that was sent to him, forwarded to him at the request of Howard Lovecraft. Howard Lovecraft was another Weird Tales writer, or weird writer at the time. And this is a reproduction of a Robert E. Howard postcard that he sent to Robert E. Howard in Cross Plains, Texas. And he's saying here how his friend H.P. Lovecraft asked him to forward to him. Now I have this as like a tobacco envelope, and I have some stuff inside. There's another picture of Robert Howard in a giant beer glass. And this is a reproduction of a coaster for Schlitz. Schlitz was his favorite beer. And this is a bookplate, reproduction of a bookplate that appeared on the books in his house library. It's his father's signature. I'll keep going here. I have the one thing that Robert Howard did keep was a trunk full of letters and stories, and a lot of those are in these museums, in library collections, institutions. There is a Robert E. Howard house. The house was in Cross Plains where he lived, was turned into a museum. and they have been trying to get back a lot of original possessions of the family, but there really is not a lot. Here's another picture of Robert in front of the house in Cross Plains. And then this is a receipt. One thing that was returned to the house is a bust of Cleopatra that Robert is known to have purchased in New Orleans. And so I have, to commemorate that, a receipt. Another rejection letter. He kept all of his rejection letters. This is an influence on his Bullfinch mythology. It's the Age of Fable. And this was a strong influence on Howard's work. So it's in there for that. Here's another, The Ring. He had some articles in The Ring magazine, and like I said, he was into fitness and exercising, and these are period appropriate publications that he might have, or most likely has known about. Okay, we're getting back to the end here. I have this little accordion pocket here. I have a piece of paper with Novelyn Price. That was his girlfriend. And this is her phone number. I have this little Tom Mix pocket watch here, pocket knife. And I figured he liked Westerns. He might be a Tom Mix fan, so I made a little fake pocket knife. Just something he might have in his wallet. And I have some photographs. These are not long ago discovered photos of Robert and his friends in the front yard. These are the Butlers, Leroy and Faustine Butler, and they acted out a lot of Robert's scenes with swords, and it's a very interesting crew. And I have in the back here, I have a picture of Robert E. Howard in front of the house with his dog Patch, and I have this little like dog tag to represent Patch, who was a faithful companion to Robert. And in this picture, you can see he's wearing his bandana, and I have a piece of a bandana in here to just for you know, a little bit of realism, I guess, or whatever. And this is a poem that he wrote. Very macabre. A lot of his writing is very, very macabre. And this is actually, I found, there's the local Cross Plains library. They have quite a bit of Howard's manuscripts, some published and some unpublished manuscripts. So I purchased some, and I just include like 2 pages or so in these journals, because I think it's really interesting for people to read the words that he actually wrote and see how he wrote them. This is another letter that I found that he wrote to someone. Really funny, really interesting. He was an really excellent writer. And it's really sad that he died so young. And then, of course, it's known that on the day that he died, this was on his body, in his pocket, and It's very somber. And then finally in the back of the wallet I found these period envelopes. This is from the 30s. And so it's an actual envelope from the 30s. But I have inside a letter that one of the magazines received from a fan who was really happy with Robert E. Howard's story. So I wanted to include that because he kept so many very like rejection letters and very sad things. I wanted to have something happy that somebody, you know, wrote in and they really enjoyed his work. And this is another manuscript. This is a story that it was not published, not in his lifetime as far as I know. It's called Two-Fisted Santa Claus. It's pretty, it starts to be humorous. I mean, there's only a couple of pages that I have in here, but it's really cool. And then in the letter that I include with the journal, I encourage people to contact the Cross Plains Library if they're interested in purchasing. It's a very minor fee that they charge. It's just for copies, and it's really cool if you're a fan of Robert E. Howard to actually see his official manuscripts, the way he wrote them and typed them out. It's an interesting way to read his stories other than from a book, is to read them right the way he saw them right from his typewriter. But anyway, that's it. That's all I got. This is my Robert E. Howard Wallet Junk Journal. Thanks for watching.